I like this video because this is kind of exactly how I felt. Men in men's prison. I just thought, why are you having an issue with people who are in a men's prison who are men when they are just as strong as other men in prison? Just because somebody's pretty doesn't mean they're no longer a man. Like, this is just odd. Continue, though.
Ask one question. Sure. May I? Do I have to stay here in the men's unit still? Yeah, I don't make the rules up there, but they should make a proper accommodation for you. You should be in a separate area. You can contact the bondsman to try and get you out. Miss Corey, do you want to note your file that makes you to follow up to make sure she's able to get hold of a bondsman to bond out?
Let's talk about prison. Primarily when I talk about prison, I'm talking about the need for single-sex spaces and the ways that women in jails across the world have been taken advantage of because of self-ID laws, which have allowed predators to come into those jails and has resulted in the suffering, rape, and abuse of imprisoned women.
No, that was foreseen, honestly. But continue.
However, this topic is a little bit different. See, number one, Nikita Dragun is famous for something. I'm not actually sure what. I think it's makeup. And Nikita looks relatively female, despite being a biological male.
No, I don't think Nikita looks female at all. I don't understand. Just because Nikita looks like a small person, that means that person looks female? No, to me, that person looks like an Asian male. And guess what? Nikita is an Asian male. So, I don't really get what you mean. You don't see an Asian man there? I mean, Asian people don't specifically look very different, to me at least, when it comes to sex or age. There's a lot of things that, like, I used to pass out cards to people to go to the club and stuff when I was younger. And this would be a problem to me because with Asian people, everyone's short. So it's hard when you're trying to tell people to get drinks and you don't really know how old they are because, and, if you're trying to say you get them for free, if you're talking to female or male, that is hard too. But generally, you can kind of tell a male from a female when it comes to Asian people. And I would say that Nikita doesn't look any different than typical men, in my opinion. Anyway, continue.
Now, this is because of facial feminization surgery, because of the large amount of makeup and lighting and all those different things that really plays into it.
No, but Nikita wasn't wearing any makeup there. That's what I'm saying. Like, when Nikita is wearing makeup, I don't know. Maybe to some people, Nikita looks like a woman. But I'm saying in that jumpsuit, when Nikita's talking to the judge, that looked like an Asian man asking why is he going to a men's prison, to me at least.
But either way, when people look at Nikita, they are looking and they're thinking, oh my god, that person looks so female, they're going to get abused and raped. And on one hand, yes, gender non-conforming men in prison are at a higher risk of abuse. Gay men in prison are at a higher risk of abuse. And of course, anyone who looks vaguely feminine is going to be at a higher rate of abuse.
No, I just am like, there's a lot of small men, okay? Like men who are only 120 pounds. Are we going to put them in the women's prison because there are some men who are bench pressing like over 150 pounds or whatever, and they are, like over 250 pounds and, foot taller than them? They can definitely destroy them. Are we going to find another prison for small men? I mean, like, was weird to me. I mean, like, one, anyway, Nikita doesn't even look that small, just pointing out. He doesn't look like the smallest person I've seen. I mean, I've seen small men before, and there are plenty of men who are smaller than that. So, to me, I mean, like, I don't really get it. I don't get it on the basis of strength. you can't say that this person is dealing with anything less than any other man who's a small man. Small men go to men's prison. Small men don't go to women's prison. They go to men's prison.
But of course, this doesn't center around why. Who poses the danger to these individuals? Quite simply, other men. Whether or not you think Nikita Dragun is a female, legally, she is a female. This is a picture of her driver's license. As you can see, there's a little F for sex, female. But the issue is, regardless of what...
Okay, legally doesn't change your strength. Doesn't change anything. You could label an 8-year-old little girl or boy a 50-year-old, 250-pound, 180-pound bench pressing man. You could label them as that if you want to. You still got an 8-year-old little boy or girl. I'm just saying, but you can identify, anyone can identify as anything. That doesn't make them it on the biological basis or the strength basis. Okay, so on the basis of vulnerability, this person is not vulnerable in the basis of the same way a woman would be vulnerable in a men's prison. Okay, they're not vulnerable like that. And also, one other thing, it's a little odd to me because it's like, are you wearing makeup in prison? Like, you originally look like a man, right? So then you should obviously be able to fit in with men because you originally look like that in the first place. So if you take off the makeup and all that stuff, and, things of that nature, you're gonna look just like them because you are the same thing. I mean, in your delusion, you think that you're not, but everybody else is nodding your head and not seeing you as however way you want to see yourself. We all see you as what we see your body as. Your body is that of a male's. So your body fits with other males. Your body fits with other males in prison. Your body fits with other males in sports. And that's another thing. I did not address this, but with competing in sports, I do not think that people always say, like, they think that there should be a third option or something like that with, like, a trans woman or whatever. I do not think that they should have a third option because they dismiss their option with competing with men. And there needs to be no option after that because that's what they chose to do. Continue.
Nikita's ID says Nikita still has a penis, and a penis can be used to penetrate and or assault others. It's really that simple. And the thing is, incarcerated women are already at super high risks of being abused, not just from other, guards.
I don't really think the mere fact of having a penis excludes someone from the female prison because there are plenty of people who have, like, other conditions that make them have male genitalia. Like, they could be a genetic female and they could have female genitalia. I don't know. Like, I always thought, okay, I guess some people would say certain people who are genetic females should not go in the same prison as other females, I guess. On the basis of how bad is it going to be for the people in the prison having to have that person in prison with them? It probably would be a problem, I guess. But to me, I still think no genetic female should ever go in a prison with a male. That's one thing I think. And I also think that I don't think that people who are both either should go to prison with men. It's a problem. There's specifically one person who was both sexes, and she was saying how she specifically went to prison with men on this basis, I guess. And yeah, she got like raped, I think, 3 times in a matter of a couple weeks by 3 different types of prison inmates. I mean, it's really bad. I mean, I would not think anyone who is born partly female should ever go with men to prison. But if you are a man, then you should go to male prison. Like, this is obvious. Men should be in men prisons, and it should only be men in men prisons, nothing else. Now, like, there should be more of a. I always thought there should be a third option for people who are born both, or I guess other situations going on there, or isolation, or something like that. I think they shouldn't have to be with men, basically. I just don't think that's really proper or appropriate. But yeah, that's just my opinion on that. I definitely don't think that, someone choosing to identify as a woman is going to get them out of going to a men's prison when they are a man. You're a man, you go to a man's prison. That's it. It's simple, you know? In this case, it's a man going to a man's prison or jail. You can't really have an issue with that. You just can't. It's silly. You're just saying a man who wears dresses and likes pretty things, that means that man needs to go to a woman's prison. It doesn't make any sense.
But from the system at large, I mean, there's so much mistreatment of women in prison. And to add in the psychological terror of knowing that there is a male in the space with you who has access to you, whom you might not be able to even protest against because of their status, that sounds terrifying. See, the comfort and safety of males should not come over the comfort and safety of females in prison. And it must be said that there is a far smaller population of trans-identified males in prison than there are females or just regular men who don't think about gender. And even...
Yeah, that's a little scary. I don't know if that's true, but if that's true, that is a little scary, because it's like, you really would want these type of people in women's prisons when what they went to prison for was specifically hurting women. Like, that's sick.
Even if accommodating one person is possible, even if there are, a couple people in prison for low-level offenses like this, and they need a place to be, it doesn't mean that women should have to give up their safety and their feeling of comfort in order to accommodate that. Instead, it would make sense to have a third or a secluded or private area, private prison wing for those who are gender non-conforming males. Because to be quite honest, gender non-conforming females in a female prison aren't going to be as high risk of abuse. It's really just a male problem of male abusing males. And the issue that...
Yeah, also, I don't understand. Male violence, men having violence against other men or whatever, it's like it's swept under the rug, basically, and then women have to account for it. It's just the same with the bathrooms. Like, they'll say that, oh, men are going to beat them up. And true, some men will be violent and so forth. But why aren't we just addressing the fact that the men are violent? Instead, you want to put people at risk by trying to put men in women's bathrooms or prisons. It's just like, when you could just address the fact that there's some people who are violent towards people in a public bathroom because of how they choose to dress. Like, that's their personal business. You're butting your business into someone else's life who had nothing to do with you. They're just trying to use the bathroom and go. That's a man's problem. That's not really women's problem, and it shouldn't be made into being a woman's problem. Anyway, continue.
Though, is that, first off, trans activists don't want a third option. They've never wanted a compromise. They never wanted a third option. They've never said, yes, I will accept a different bathroom and just not go in the women's or the men's. Instead, they just want to be completely accepted and validated by the gender that they want to transition to. So in this case, they would like to be in the female prison because Nikita's a female, so obviously she should be in the female prison.
Once this information hit the internet, people were
That's the thing, it's just so weird. You know, it's not really, I don't think, about the bathroom or the prison. It's about control, making others acknowledge you as a female, basically. Even in cases where it's really not possible to do that because it specifically affects other people's well-being and health. You know, that's what it's about. It's about their dysphoria, basically, and assuaging their dysphoria. They feel like their dysphoria is at odds when they are basically told that they are men and that they are not allowed into women's spaces. It triggers them and makes them uncomfortable with themselves. But that's a personal issue, and this is the thing. That's why they need therapy. You know, in many different levels, they need therapy so then they can be happy with the fact that everyone knows the truth. They are a male, you know. If they're a male, then they need to accept that they're male, but they have a problem accepting that they're a male. So then every aspect of their life where it reminds them that they're a male, they get triggered and upset, and they try to make a big issue out of it and try to fit themselves into the female section and sector because because it has to do with how they feel psychologically about themselves. Anyway, continue.
Concern for Nikita's safety, considering she is transgender and she was put in a men's unit. With one person saying Nikita shouldn't have been arrested in the first place, but putting her in a men's jail is beyond evil. I wouldn't wish that on any woman. I hope she is safe. Another person saying Nikita's a nasty person, but to keep her in a men's unit is so disturbing and terrifying. Do you realize how dangerous this is for her? I don't care if you hate Nikita, but putting a trans woman in a men's prison unit is the most hostile thing to do, especially in the state like Florida. This is nothing but dehumanizing a person's human rights.
And I think that
I don't think anyone has a right to be in a bathroom or in a prison section where they are not the biological sex that belongs in that space. So, I mean, like, they don't have a right. What are you talking about, rights? They don't have a right. They have a right to be in the men's prison. They have a right to be in the public bathroom of the men's public bathroom. That's your right. You don't have a right to be in women's spaces. Why are people so entitled? And I don't understand why people think it's so dangerous. Just because someone's wearing a dress and they put on makeup, now they become weak? How is it that people become weak because they were wearing a dress and makeup? Like, you still are a man. You still have a man's strength. You can still fend for yourself. So you are not in any more danger than any other small man. So I don't understand why people try and say, this person was wearing a dress. This person looks pretty to me. This person's wearing makeup. This person is trying to call themselves a feminine name. Now they're going to be weak and be beaten up and all this stuff by men because somehow their muscles and stuff had atrophy and they got weaker now off of the makeup and the dresses that they're wearing. Like, seriously, that's not how it works. You know, they are perfectly fine. They're perfectly safe in the sense of the fact that they can fend for themselves because they are men, and those people are men as well. They are not in any more danger by wearing a dress. They are in the same amount of danger as they were before they did all that. When they were living as a man, you know what I mean? They had the same strength. They're the same dang person. Continue.
Not only is that just reckless, because yes, this case might be a little bit easier to stomach. Nikita was nude at the pool and threw a bottle at a police officer. I've heard some people say that it was a bipolar thing. Personally, I don't really care. It was a low-level offense. Obviously not a great thing, but it was just a little public nudity and throwing a bottle at police. Fine. But there's always going to be people, for example, sex offenders, who in prison do not have a great time of things. They're going to look for ways to get out of that experience because male prison experience is very different from the female prison experience. And so by creating a loophole, no matter how well intended, no matter who you want to help with it, you're going to end up harming a greater group by allowing this loophole, which says, if you say you are a woman, you're a woman, and we have to put you in with the women. There's so many cases.
For one, I just wanted to point out, how is the offense that Nikita committed, the crime that Nikita committed, somehow a crime that specifically is low level? Isn't it a sexual offense? You are exposing yourself. You try to say sex offenders and then say that person as if that person did something harmless. They were a sex offender too, basically. They expose themselves. When you expose yourself, it is part of the charges that are associated with, like, sexual offenses, obviously, because you expose yourself. So that's just odd. Like, why would that be considered a small crime? No, that's not a small crime. That shows that something's very wrong with this person. And they obviously wouldn't be safe around women when they exposed themselves in the regular public and were put away in jail because they exposed themselves. Why would you want someone like that in a woman's prison? That makes no sense. But that's regardless of the situation. I don't care if this person just stole Kleenex from Walmart. This person is a man biologically. So by strength, this person is not at risk when jailed with men. They're not. You can't be in danger when you are jailed with your own sex on the basis of your sex. You can say on the basis of being smaller, but then you have to get all the men in the prisons who are small into the women's prison. And no, everyone doesn't want that to happen, obviously. But continue.
Which I'm sure I'll have them on the screen during this video, that illustrate why this is wrong. Because not every trans-identified male is going to be some low-level offense. In fact, the majority of trans offenders are there for sexual-related crimes, which is much higher than those in the general male population or female population. And again,
that's honestly very scary, especially since they demand to be in spaces with women. Very scary.
And it's just not worth validating somebody's identity if that was going to put another demographic at risk, and in fact, a larger demographic. What's the matter? Just hay fever.
Sorry about that.
Powerful PMS bloat relief. To fight that blah feeling. Midol.
So with this case, I can see why some people are more on edge about it, because especially in all these pictures and all these, appearances, Nikita looks pretty feminine. However, that doesn't make Nikita not a man, and it doesn't mean that Nikita is not going to pose a risk or a discomfort to other inmates, and it doesn't mean that there's not going to...
It's just so weird. Just because someone's pretty does not mean they lost their strength as a man. Nikita still has the same bone structures, still has the same muscles, still has the same strength. If you're saying that this person is wearing dresses and makeup in prison, well then aren't they kind of trying to attract a man at this point? I mean, if Nikita basically drops the makeup in the dress, Nikita's just gonna blend in with any other weak man, basically. Nikita doesn't have female genitalia that would make Nikita at risk. Like an intersex person or a female who is born with female genitalia is obviously going to be at risk because when you have female genitalia, that puts you at risk. Now, honestly, it's not just that. You could be on a different level. You could even have like male genitalia, but other traits of a female, like I said, and you would be at risk. Like, say you had breasts. Now, you could say that Nikita has breasts, and so that is a risk. But then you have to understand that Nikita gave themselves breasts. Okay, so since they gave themselves breasts, they put this on themselves. Okay, it's like if they attach any type of cosmetic surgery on themselves, they would have the burden of having that cosmetic surgery, even in prison and so forth. That's just what it is. Like if someone attached a bunny tail to their buttocks or something as a part of cosmetic surgery and they go to prison, they're obviously not going to have that fun of a time in prison. Or what do you want them to go to bunny prison now? Maybe they identify as a bunny. You need to put them in jail or pound for bunnies. You get what I'm saying? This doesn't make any sense. Anyway, continue.
Going to be a bunch of other trans-identified males who have completed further worse crimes, who are going to pose a far larger danger to inmates using the same tactic to get into female prison. In the end, you have to consider that the individual reflects the societal. The individual reflects the class. So even if this one situation you think, okay, fine, loophole, that doesn't negate the fact that Nikita is part of a class of individuals who can pose a harm to women and who have, as documented, several times over. And of course, this whole debate...
A fine loophole. No, I don't think there should be a loophole here. I don't see why. Why should this person be a loophole? They fit perfectly fine in prison without being transitioned, without makeup, without hair. Like the photo you're showing here looks like a man to me, an Asian man. A lot of Asian men would have trouble in prison anyway because a lot of Asian men are smaller than a lot of other men. That's just how it is. Are you saying a lot of Asian men who are shorter in stature and other races of men who are shorter in stature, now they have to have a separate prison too? Dang, you're going to have like 7 different prisons at this point. Now you're going to have skinny men, small men, Asian men, men who identify as bunnies. I mean, like, you're going to have a whole bunch of different types of prison at this point, okay? I mean, it's simple. If you're a man, you go into a men's prison. It's simple like that, and it should always be that way. Continue.
Is somewhat moot anyway because Nikita was never held in a men's correctional unit. Nikita was always only in the booking section, where everybody is kept regardless of sex, and then was bailed out by fans. So the whole argument that it's a human rights issue is completely wrong because nothing even happened to begin with. Anyhow, this, dear viewers, is where we part. Personally, I don't recognize trans influencers or whatever like that. I've never been someone who used social media that much beyond like Tumblr, and that was really just me reading fan fiction. So whenever stuff like this comes up in the news, I'm always scrambling to figure out who is this person? Where did they come from? What's go...
I follow a couple transgender content creators, but not too many. Now, I follow more D-trans, honestly. There's quite a few D-trans content creators that I follow. But yeah, I just generally think out of this whole situation that, I saw a lot of men acting like Nikita was supposed to go into a women's prison. And I find it so interesting. It's like, you, of all people, are saying this because you feel uncomfortable with feminine men in your spaces, basically. That's what the problem is. But it's got nothing to do with women. It's got to do with the fact that you guys have a violence problem, and you are violent towards men who are more feminine than you. You know, that needs to be fixed. And the fact that you're uncomfortable with males in your space. You know, nobody seems like on the female side that anyone is complaining that trans men are in women's spaces. Like, nobody cares. But it's usually men who have this issue because they have this idea ingrained in their head that they need to have masculinity preserved, I think. And they feel like these people do not have that masculinity preserved in their identity. So they reject these type of people and do not want them in their spaces and try to put this issue onto women. You know. But yeah, to me, I just think, like, that whole issue was very odd. It was like, it's just a man in a man's prison. It's very simple and easy and obvious. So it should not be a big deal if a man was in a man's prison, whether he wears a dress or not. So that's all I have to say in this video. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe, everyone, and comment down below. Have a great day. Bye, guys.